What's up everybody, welcome back. So let's finish up our grenades and equipment setup today. We're gonna add some pickups for the grenades and we're gonna make it so we can replace items in our equipment inventory if that is full. So we're gonna wrap things up for the equipment basically. If you enjoy the channel, please consider checking out the Discord. There's a ton of free project files in there and also a few you have to pay for or have to be a member from YouTube or a Patreon. So that's only a few bucks. And then you will get access to all project files. So definitely not only stuff for members. Make sure to have a look if you're interested. If you like the videos, please consider leaving a like. And now we're just gonna dive into today's video. So before we can actually add some pickups, we need to make sure we have information set up in our data table. So let's go to the gameplay loot folder, and in here let's start with adding the grenades pickup to the data table. So let's create a new entry in here, and the first one is going to be for the normal grenade. So I'm simply going to call this a grenade. So the pickup name is also going to be grenade. And then for the pickup mesh, we need a static mesh. So we're gonna fill in the grenade mesh over here. There's no skeletal mesh, so that's fine. I'm gonna scale it up a little bit because it's quite small. So I'm gonna set the mesh scale to 1.5. I do want to show the pickup name, so I'm gonna enable that. Then for the offset, I'm gonna set it to 30 like the other ones. So it's floating a little bit above the ground. The interactable hint is simply going to be pick up grenades. And then we want to show the interactable hint, so I'm going to enable that one. I don't want to make it an automatic pickup, and it's not an ammo pickup. So this is set up. Now let's add the same one for my ice grenade. So we can duplicate this and let's call this grenade ice. So let's change the name over here as well. Let's call this ice grenade and then change the mesh. So the rest should be pretty much fine. We can change the pickup hint over here and then that's good to go. So I also added a third type of grenades, which is the fire grenade. So it's a bit easier to test later on if I have an inventory size of 2 and I try to pick up the third one, then I need to replace something. So I did the same thing as for the ice grenade, simply changed the impact affix and the color for the grenade, and that's about it. So I'm going to duplicate the ice grenade again, and this is going to be the grenade fire. So let's call this fire grenade. And I'm going to change the mesh over here and then the pickup hint. There we go. So we have those set up and good to go. We can close the data table. And now, first of all, we want to go into the hero base character. And in here we have a function called find weapon slot, and we want to do something similar for our equipment. So we're going to create a new function and call this find equipment slot. So we can call this if we try to pick up an equipment item and we don't know what slot we can use. So we're going to give this one input, and that's the equipment row name. So that's a name variable. There we go. And we also want to give this a few outputs. So let's add the first one, and that's going to be found empty slot. So that's going to be a boolean. And then we want a second boolean, is owned item. So that tells us if this is a new item or we already have it in our inventory. And then the last one is going to be the slot to add item. And that's going to be an integer for the index where we want to add the item. So first of all, let's grab our equipment inventory from the variables over here. That should be somewhere over here. Oh, I didn't rearrange them in this project, so it's all the way down. Equipment inventory, and in here we want to find the equipment row name that we're going to add. So let's look for a find node and plug it in over here. So this will return -1 if nothing was found. So we're going to grab a branch and compare the result. So if this is greater than or equal to 0, then we already own the item. So let's plug this one into the condition. So if this is true, then we want to add it to the same slot where the item currently is. So we want to promote this to a variable, and that's going to be a local variable. A local slot to add item. And we can set it over here for the true pin. And then we also want a local variable for the is-owned item. So let's drag off here and promote it to a local variable. Local is-owned item. So then we can set it over here as well. And we want to make sure we set it to true. So we already have this item. And then for this branch, we can simply return. So that's good to go. And let's plug in our other variables as well. So we have the slot to add item, the local variable, and we're also going to create a local one for the empty slot. So promote this to a local variable, and that's local found empty slot. So we have that good to go as well. So for the other branch over here, if we're not already owning the item, so we can already set this one to false. Then we can grab a branch and we want to find an empty slot. So again, we can grab the equipment inventory with the find node and simply type empty in here. So if this returns greater than or equal to 0, then we have an empty slot we can store the item in. So I can just hook it up over here, so I didn't need the second branch. So plug it into the equal node and then hook it up to the branch. So if this returns true, then we found an empty slot. So we can grab our local found empty slot and set this one to true and store the slot to add item to the result of the find node over here. So let's plug that one in over here. And then we can return with this branch as well. And the last one, we don't have an empty slot, so we're going to set our local variable to false over here. And then we can't really add it to an existing slot, so we're going to grab our slot to add item, and I'm going to set this one to -1 over here. And then return as well. So that should be good to go. And with this function done, we can start setting up the actual pickup. So let's compile and save the character, and we can close that. And we want to go to our loot folder, and in here we're going to duplicate the pickup for the weapon, because this is pretty similar to what we're going to do with the equipment. So this will save us a bunch of work. So let's duplicate this one and call this pickup equipment. And let's open it up first. So for the components, we can grab this particle system and just delete it. So this is a component we added to the weapon pickup. So we can simply delete it over here. And for the construction script, we can go in here and get rid of all of this stuff. So we do want to run the parent construction script, so make sure you keep that node in place. And then we want to get rid of the skeletal mesh, but this is a component we added to the parent. So in this case, we need to drag it into the construction script and simply destroy the component in here. So I would pretty much advise you to always use static meshes, and if an item doesn't have a static mesh, you can really easily convert it to a static mesh from a skeletal mesh. So then I would just make a static mesh version of the skeletal mesh and use that for the pickup. So destroy the pickup mesh on construction script, and that's good to go. So we can have a look at some of the variables, and I'm going to hide the inherited ones. So this is a little bit easier to look at. So for the weapon row name to add, I'm gonna rename it simply so it makes a little bit more sense. So this is the equipment row name to add. And then we're not gonna have an ammo clip, but we can't delete it yet because it's in this function. So let's wait for that a little bit. We could rename the ammo stock, but that doesn't really matter too much. And the weapon display name is going to be the equipment display name. So that's good to go as well. And now all we want to do is set up our pickup event. So we need to change a bunch of stuff in here. So I'm just going to run through the function and redo most of it from the start. So that's a little bit easier to follow. So at the beginning, let's get rid of this. And we're simply having the pickup entry node. So the first thing we want to do is find our equipment slot and not our weapon slot. So let's drag off the player character and call our new function find equipment slot. So we can plug in our equipment row name to add. That's an instance editable variable. So it's been set in the details panel. And we can hook up these variables as well. So simply grab the slot and plug it in over here. The owned weapon is going to be the owned item, and then the empty slot found, obviously the empty slot. And then we can get rid of this node over here. And let's hook this one up so things are actually being set. So we have these variables done and out of the way. Then for the first branch over here, we're simply going to check if this is a new item or not. So is new weapon, we probably want to rename it. So let's go into the local variables, is new item. And then get rid of the ammo pickup stuff because this is an equipment pickup. So branch local is new item. Then over here, we can get rid of the second branch over here. And right after the check for local is new item, we can plug in the item picked up boolean and set this one to true. And then the next thing we're going to do over here is dive into our data table and grab some information. But this time we need our equipment info table. So we want to disconnect the struct over here and then we can change the data table. So this is going to be the equipment info table. And then this will return a different out row. So let's break it over here and let's wait to continue over here. So first of all, let's go back and then we're going to do the true branch over here. So if this is true, then we need to know if we found an empty slot or not. So this can go. And the first thing we want to hook up after this branch is the branch for the check empty slot. So if we found an empty slot, we can set our is item picked up to true. So that's correct. That can stay in place. And then we want to call our server add equipment to inventory. And over here, we're calling add weapon to inventory. So let's change this one up. Drag off the player character, add equipment to inventory. And simply move over the pins. And get rid of this one. So that's good to go as well. And then we'll end up at the data table node. So we're going to continue here in a little bit. Over here we have another branch coming off and that goes all the way to the beginning. So we can just grab these and get rid of them. We're going to get back to that part later when we're adding the replacement of the weapon. So that's not really important right now. So if we go back over here, the branch that checks for the empty slot, if this returns false, so we don't have a slot to add an item, then for now we're simply going to print inventory full, add widget later. So we need to change this up a little bit. So currently this is for replacing the weapon. We're going to get back to this later. And then we can go up and back to our equipment row name over here and the data table where we're pulling the stuff. So over here we can move over the pins. We're going to plug in the display name. And for the ammo, we're simply going to use the ammo stock variable and disregard the ammo clip because the equipment only has a stock. So let's move over the ammo stock over here. And then we can get rid of the alt break struct node. So this should be good. Over here we're setting the equipment display name for the pickup hint, so that can stay. And then we're checking if this is a new item, so we do want to do that. We're setting clip values and we don't need to set them, so we're going to get rid of this one and for the maximum clip as well, and do the same thing in the lower branch. So remove the clip variables and keep the stock ones. So we can get rid of everything that was connected to the clips. And then we want to set the current stock. So if we already own the item, we're going to get the stock value from the player. We need to change it a little bit. If we don't own the item, it's simply going to be 0. So to get the correct value, we need to get it from the ammo equipment array from the player and not the ammo stock array from the player. So we can disconnect or actually remove the ammo stock array, sorry, and we're going to get our equipment ammo. So ammo equipment, that works as well, and plug that in over here, and we can keep the local variable for the weapon inventory slot, because this is actually the equipment inventory slot. So this is the local variable that returned from the find equipment slot function over here. So to avoid confusion, we probably want to rename that local weapon inventory slot. That's this one. So this is going to be the local equipment inventory slot. So this will get the correct stock values from the player, and we can keep the maximum values. So those are hooked up to the data table over here. Up here we have a branch that checks if we have full ammo, and if we do, we're not going to pick up the item. So we're going to check if this is a new item. If it's true, we can always add it. And if it's false, we need to check the ammo values, but we can get rid of the clip values. So let's delete the current clip over here, and we're simply going to check if our stock is equal to our maximum stock. If that's true, we can leave the stuff in here, so then we're not going to pick up the item, and we're going to show a hint over here. So we can add an equipment hint later, but let's not worry about that right now. So if this is a new item, then we don't have to worry about ammo counts. So we're going to go back to the ammo clip stuff. We're going to get back to this in a little bit. And if we don't already have full ammo, we're also going to go back to this branch. But we're going to change that up as well, obviously. So over here, the loaded ammo clip, we can pretty much delete that, and we're going to keep the loaded ammo normal one over here. So let's grab the branch and the two set array element nodes and delete that. And that also contains the clip overflow if we're trying to add more bullets to a clip that can fit in there. So we can get rid of everything that was connected to it. And then over here, let's see. So for the clamp node, we want to change that as well. So we can keep the current stock maximum, but we want to grab our item ammo and our local current stock. So we don't need the clip overflow. We can delete that and get rid of this pin. So that's the maximum value we're clamping it to. That's good to go. If the loaded ammo is -1, that means we're going to add full ammo. And if it's not -1, we're going to add the ammo specified in the loaded ammo variable. So we can grab this branch and simply hook it up over here. So that should go to both of the loose ends of these pins. So only the branches, and keep this one connected to the return node. So for the set ammo stuff, we want to grab our equipment ammo array. So let's drag off the player character and get our ammo equipment. And we want to get our local equipment slot. That's already in here, by the way, so we don't need to get that one. So we can simply replace the array over here, and that should be good. So let's plug this one in, and the current maximum stock, that's fine. So over here again, we need to swap the ammo stock array for the equipment ammo array. So let's grab that one, paste it over here, and hook everything up. There we go. So that's the ammo stuff. Then let's see. So over here we're updating the HUD, and we don't need to update the clip or the stock. So let's just get rid of this for now entirely. We need to play a character because we're going to update the equipment HUD, but we only want to do that if this is a new item and this is actually our active equipment item. So over here, let's just get rid of all of this stuff. That's a bit easier. So first of all, we're going to grab our local isNewItem boolean and then grab an end node. So if this is true and our active equipment index is the same as our equipment index we're going to add the item to. So let's grab the local equipment inventory slot. If this is equal to the player character's active equipment index, so let's grab the player character and get the active equipment index. So if both of these are true, then we're going to update the equipment info on the HUD. So then we need the player character in here, and we're going to grab our client update HUD equipment. So update HUD equipment, and that's or we didn't create that yet. No, I think we didn't create it yet. Ooh, that sucks. Okay, so then we're gonna grab our client update HUD grenade. So let's grab that one first. Client update HUD grenade, and now it is here. Oh, I misspelled it. So we did create it. I'm sorry. So we want to call the HUD update equipment first. Plug this one into the true pin over here. And then for the equipment name and the icon, we can grab those from the data table we used earlier. So there's a break struct node somewhere, display name and the icon. There we go. And then we're gonna grab a second branch over here. Let's disconnect this. So if this is false, then we might still want to update the ammo count for the grenades. So in that case, we're going to check if our equipment, active equipment is the same as the item we're picking up. So we can grab the player character again and get the equipment inventory. So in here we can find, we can get our current active equipment index. So that's the player character, and that goes in here. And if this is the same as the equipment row name we're gonna add, so that's simply from the variables, then we want to update the ammo count for the grenades. So then we're gonna grab our player character again, and this time we're gonna call client HUD update grenade. So we want to plug this one in as well. And then we're going to grab the true branch over here and plug that one in. And for the grenade ammo, we can simply grab it from the player character. So we can grab the player character with the ammo equipment array, and we need the active equipment index with a get node. So let's drag off here, get the ammo equipment. And then we want to plug this one into the get node and plug it into update grenade ammo. So now we have the correct ammo values on screen as well. and we can actually return. Currently we don't have a function to save equipment yet, so for now we're going to ignore this. Let's get rid of it. And then we end up at the return node. So we're still going to use our local item picked up boolean, so we're going to keep that one. And let's plug in our client HUD update grenade and also the false pin over here. There we go. So this should be the new pickup function. We can get rid of some loose ends that's still laying around. And then we should be good to go over here. And so with the new pickup function in place, we can pretty much test this. So let's compile and save. And let's drop a few pickups inside of our level. There we go. And so we want the equipment pickup over here. And then I'm gonna add them for the different types of grenades that I have. So first of all, the equipment row name to add, that's going to come from the actual weapon data table. So I don't think I added the fire grenades in here already. And let's see. Sorry, we need the equipment info table. Oh, I did add them in here. So we have grenade normal, grenade ice, and grenade fire. So the normal grenades are going to be in my inventory. So I'm going to create for the grenade ice. And then the save doesn't really serve a purpose. And we want to use the loaded ammo and not the loaded ammo clip. So we can delete that variable, to be honest. So I'm going to set this to -1. That means it will give me max ammo. And then for the pickup row name, I need to get the pickup row name from the pickup data table. So that was grenade ice as well. And then this should work. So let me double check my row name. Grenade ice, so that works. So I'm going to add 2 of those. And then also add 2 for the fire grenades. So let's copy them again and then change the name over here, grenade fire, and then for the weapon pickup name, grenade fire. Save it, and now we should be able to pick stuff up. So we do want to make sure that we don't already have a full inventory if we enter the level. So let's go to the hero base character. And in here, set up weapon inventory. So currently we're adding 2 types of grenades. So I'm only going to add the normal grenades. And those are in slot 0. So then I want to start the for loop over here at slot 1. And I do want to make sure that my equipment inventory size is big enough. So let's find references. And I have it set to size 2. So I can live with that. So I can pick up 1 item and the second one should be blocked because my inventory should be full. So there we go. Let's see if this is actually working or not. So I'm starting with the normal grenades. Those work, and I have 2 pickups over here, so I can pick up my fire grenade, for example. And I should be able to select it in the weapon wheel. So if I right click, I can switch to my fire grenade, back to the normal grenade. So that seems to be working, and if I throw it, it's actually another grenade. And now I shouldn't be able to pick this one up, and we get a print in the top left corner of the screen. So that part is actually working, and I think I can pick this up, yes, and it will increase my ammo, so that's good. Okay, so far so good. Let's continue. So let's make sure we can replace items. This shouldn't take too long, so the video is getting pretty long already, but I want to wrap this up in this video, so let's just keep going. First of all, we need to go to the weapon wheel widget, so let's open that one up. And in here we want to add one extra boolean that can tell us if we're trying to replace a weapon or if we're trying to replace equipment. So I'm going to grab the isReplaceWeapon menu boolean because that's already instance editable and exposed on spawn. So make sure you have those values set as well. And then we're going to call this something like isReplaceEquipment. So we can set this if we spawn the widget. Then we want to go to our event graph and let's go to event construct over here. So if we follow the branch a little bit, we already have a branch off over here for the replace weapon menu. And if we follow that branch, then we want to go right over here where we create the selection menu. And right before we do that, we want to check if we're doing it for equipment or for weapons. So let's grab a branch in here and let's move this execution pin over. Plug in our new boolean. So if this is false, we are going to set two variables. So we're going to grab our selection for slot and the hovered slot index and set both of them to 0. So that should be in here somewhere, hovered slot index as well. So set both of those to 0 and then continue to the create selection menu. And if we're trying to replace equipment, we're going to set both of these to number 3. So that's our equipment slot. And then we want to create the selection menu. So let's grab this node and paste it over here. And we want to do something a little bit different for the pickup player current weapon. So that's this node over here. We can pretty much copy these 3. So the setter and then the weapon loadout with the getter. Paste it over here. And because this is our equipment slot, we always want to know what's in slot number 3. So let's simply add number 3 in here. And then we can hook this one back up to the update weapon info current. So that should be good to go. Now, I don't think we really need to do this, but let's grab another getter instead of hooking it up to the setter over here. So the pickup player current weapon. There we go. So this should be pretty much all we need to do in the weapon wheel. So let's compile, save it, and let's close it down. Then we want to go to the shooter player controller. So we added a new input for the widget and we want to make sure that we set it as well if we open the weapon wheel. So let's go to UI open weapon wheel. And here we're spawning the widget and we need to refresh the node. And now we have the new boolean, so we simply want to pass on the boolean over here. And then we also want to set it over here. So if the widget is already constructed and we're simply adding it to the viewport, so drag off the weapon wheel over here. And we're going to set our isReplaceEquipment. So hook it up after the previous setters and then plug it into the event as well. So we're going to get the value from the input and that should be good. So compile and save. And we can close the player controller. Yeah, we can close the player controller as well. So for these new inputs, we also need to make sure we're calling them from the player character. So let's open the hero base character. And in the event graph, we have an input event for opening the weapon wheel over here. And we also have one for creating the replacement menu. And to be honest, for both of those, we don't need to change anything because the boolean doesn't need to be set. But we're going to create a new one, and that's going to be for the create equipment menu. And we're simply gonna fake the weapon wheel a little bit by plugging in our equipment inventory into our weapon inventory. So that way we don't need to mess around too much in the weapon wheel. we're simply going to swap them around and everything should work. So let's create a new custom event and call this one create replace equipment menu. Replace equipment menu. So we need to make sure we set it to run on owning client. And then we can grab the UI open weapon wheel over here and connect it up. So what we want to pass on is the pickup weapon name. So that's the pickup equipment name in this case. And we're also going to pass on the ammo stock. So that's going to be the amount of ammo in the pickup. Then for the arrays, we can grab the weapon loadout and simply hook that up to the weapon loadout. So that stays the same. For the weapon inventory, as I mentioned, we're going to grab the equipment inventory. So let's hook up the equipment to the weapon inventory and also hook it up to the equipment inventory over here. And then for the ammo equipment, hook it up over here, obviously. So this time we want to enable both of the booleans. We are replacing something and we're replacing equipment. So we need to enable both of them for this to work. For the ammo stock, we're gonna plug in our ammo equipment array. So let's look for that one as well. And that's all the way down. So ammo equipment. We're not using ammo clip arrays, but we need to hook up something, otherwise Unreal is going to moan about it. So we're simply going to drag off here and make an array and put nothing in there. That should be fine. The pickup ammo clip can be empty. So right now this should be good to go. Let's compile and save that one as well. And then let me see. So right now we can go into the actual pickup and make sure this is working. So let's open up the equipment pickup in the loot folder. And inside of the pickup function, let's go all the way to the beginning over here. So we're going to use this force replace boolean with the replace weapon index in the same way like we did with the weapon replacement. So let's grab a branch, and the first thing we're going to do is check if we are forcing a pickup or not. So if this is false, plug it back into the find equipment slot. If this is true, we can set our local equipment inventory slot. So plug it in the true pin and simply plug it into the input over here. Then we're going to set our item picked up boolean to true. So we're definitely going to pick it up because we're forcing it. And then we also want to make sure we set our isNewItem to true. So this way the ammo counts won't mess up if we do checks in there. So set that one to true as well. And then we simply want to hook this up to the add equipment to inventory. So let's drag it all the way to the right, add equipment to inventory, plug it in over here. So that's good to go. And then we still have the loose branch over here. So if there's no empty slot found, currently we have this print string hooked up. So let's go back to the data table. So again, we want to switch data tables. So we're going to disconnect the out row and then switch the weapon info table for the equipment info table. Then drag off the out row and break it again. So we can move over the display name and we can grab the pin that's currently hooked up to the ammo stock and connect it to ammo maximum. So ammo clip, again, we're not using that for equipment. So let's get rid of the alt break struct node. And then get rid of the loaded ammo clip stuff in here because we're not using that. Go to the branch for loaded ammo. So if loaded ammo is -1, we're pulling the maximum value from the data table, and otherwise we're using whatever we set in here in the details panel. And now we don't want to replace weapon, but we want to call the player character and create replace equipment. So we can move over the pins and simply ignore the ammo clip one. So we're going to use the ammo stock and hook that one to the pickup ammo stock. Get rid of the ammo clip and the alt call over here. and this should work as well. So now we want to go into the event graph, and in here we have the pickup replace weapon. So this is the one where we force it. So let's rename this one first. So pickup replace equipment, and then the rest should be pretty much good. So we're passing on the index. We should have the force replace boolean enabled, and that should be good to go. So we can compile and save that one. And now there's one small thing left to do in the hero base character. So let's go back to characters hero base. And right in here, we have a function we call from the UI weapon wheel if we want to replace a weapon. And that's our server replace weapon function. So let me just look for it. That should be in here, server replace weapon. So currently we're checking our interactable actor and casting it to our weapon pickup. So what we can do if this cast fails, simply drag off the interactable actor again and cast to our equipment pickup. So cast failed, hook that one up to the next cast. And if this is a pickup equipment, we're going to call our pickup replace equipment. So the player character is a reference to ourselves, and the replace weapon index, we can simply grab that from the event, and that should work as well. That should be good to go. So I think there's only one thing left to do, and that should be inside of the add equipment to inventory. So over here, if we replace an item, we're calling this function, and we want to make sure that if we replace an item that's been placed in the player's loadout, that we already update, that we also update that. So if we have something assigned in the weapon wheel, we want to clear that or assign the new thing that we put in there. So for that, we're gonna disconnect it over here, and first we want to get our old equipment row name before we change it in the array. So we're going to grab our equipment inventory, and from here we're going to get, no, not a reference but a copy. So let's drag over here again and get a copy. So we're going to get whatever is in the slot we're using in here, and we're going to store that in a local variable. So local old equipment name. And then we can hook everything back up over here. So then let's go to the end over here after the set array elements, and let's make a few checks. So first of all, let's grab a branch and let's check if the old equipment name is not empty. So in that case, we don't need to do anything. So let's drag in the local variable and do a not equal to. So we do need to type empty in here and hook it up. So if this is true, then we're going to grab our weapon loadout array. So those are the ones that are actually assigned in the weapon wheel. And in here, we want to find an item, and we're going to look for our old equipment name. So if we can find it, this should be greater than or equal to 0. So first of all, let's promote it to a local variable again. And this is our local old slot index. Or old loadout index, probably better. There we go. So this needs to go into the true bin. Then we're going to grab a second branch and compare this. So if this is greater than or equal to 0, and plug it in here as well. So for both of these false branches, we can simply return and we don't have to do anything. So we can hook those up to a return node. And then we want to grab our old loadout index. And let's grab a switch on int node. So this should always be in slot number 3, but let's just make sure we are. So I'm going to set the start index to 3. and then just simply add one pin. So if this is slot number 3, we want to go to our data table over here, drag off the weapon type, and we want to switch on that as well. So only if we replace it with a throwable item, so actually a valid item for our equipment slot, we can update the slot, and otherwise we're simply going to clear the slot to be empty. So for the throwable one, we can drag off and call our assign weapon to loadout. So we can call the normal one because we're already running this on the server, so that should be good. For the loadout index, we're going to grab the local variable, and the weapon row name is the one that comes with the function over here, so grab that from the input. And if we're trying to put a secondary or a primary weapon in this slot in the weapon wheel, we're simply gonna set it to empty. So let's plug in primary and secondary, plug in the old loadout index, and then make a literal name. So over here we can type empty to clear the slot. And after that we are done in here as well, so we can hook this up to the return node. Okay. And that should be good. So right now we should be able to replace an item in the same way as we did with our weapons, and we have the inventory size set to 2, so that should work. So let's just check this in game. There we go. So I'm starting out with the normal grenades, and now I can just pick up the ice grenades without anything happening, so that's good. I can go to the weapon wheel and assign my other grenade type if I want to. And if I try to pick up a third grenade, I get my replace weapon menu because this is full. So I can compare it to the normal grenade or the ice grenade. And if I pick one of these, so let's replace it with the current selected ice grenade, it's going to update my HUD as well. And now if I throw a grenade, it's the fire grenade, so that's working. And over here I have my normal and my fire grenade, and the ice grenade is gone. So yeah, that seems to be working. That's good to go. Now there's pretty much only one thing left to do, and that's make sure that all of the pickup hints that we added for the ammo and the weapon pickups also work for our grenades pickups, and I think they do, but let's just make sure. So I just ran through the notes for the pickup hints, and because we duplicated the weapon pickup and we already had everything in place over there, everything should be working. So there's one thing, if you go in the pickup equipment, we have a default hint that tells us the ammo is full. So if you want a different text on screen, you can add an extra default hint in the HUD. So in the in-game HUD over here, show default player hint, you could add one for equipment full or something, and then change the text over here, create a new boolean, and then add the third branch in here. So that's if you want to adjust the text, but I'm not too worried about it. It simply says ammo full if I try to pick up grenades that are already full. So yeah, everything should be working in here, and that should wrap up the weapon wheel part as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. Again, a pretty long video, I'm sorry, but this way at least we get some stuff done. So thanks for watching, talk to you later, bye bye.